Hello. I am here to do some of my writing. I'm here to work on my plan for my book. Looking for Mr. Bluebird. Oh, there he is. My book is about bluebirds, so he definitely wants to be here. So today we're going to talk a little bit about text features, and we worked on these a lot when we were at school. We had a poster that looked a little bit like this in our room, and when we would do reading in informational texts, we would look for certain text features. So things that weren't necessarily words or things that were added to an information book just to make it more interesting and more fun. And sometimes to help us understand what we're reading, and sometimes even to teach us more. You might be ready for this step, but you really might not be. So you might need to come back to this video when you are feeling ready for this step. So the way I know I'm ready for this step is because I have my writing process tracker here, and I have filled in my pre-writing, which was all the research that I did. I finished writing my first copy, my practice or my first draft copy. I did my revising when I read it to make sure it made sense, make sure I had everything in there that I wanted to. I did my editing. So I did my spelling and my punctuation fix-ups. I made sure I had capitals when I needed them. And that is the step I'm on. I wrote, next I will make a plan to add text features. So, looking at this chart, let's just remind ourselves what some text features could be. This is optional. This is your writing. If you want to put these in your book, you can. It does make it more fun. If you want to choose one or two text features to add, you can do that. If you want to go for it and add all of them, you could do that too. That would take you a while. So I'm just going to read each one, and then we're going to talk about each one a little bit, and I'm going to show you how I did it in my book. Table of contents is a text feature. So you all made those. That was your planning. That was what you used to make your plan for what you were going to write. Anyway, table of contents, headings. So headings are big, tell us what we're going to read about. Then we have captions and drawings. We're going to look at those together because a drawing is a picture that someone draws or something that you see, and the caption tells us about the photo or the drawing. Remember, we talked a lot about captions, and it was the words that were near a drawing or a picture that describe the drawing or the picture. A glossary, we made these when we did our books about vertebrates. A glossary tells us what words mean. That goes together really well with this bold words. Bold words were expert words that you used in your writing. Okay, if we made a word bold and used it as an expert word, that would be a good choice for a word to put into your glossary. So the glossary is the little dictionary at the end. You can use your bird as the word sheet to get ideas for the words that you want to put in your glossary. A photograph is just a picture. So you could put a photograph in your writing. If you were able to have your parents print it out, kind of glue it in there, you could do that. And here is a diagram that shows the parts of something. Things that we could do a diagram of in our books might be a diagram of the parts of a bird. You could do a diagram of the parts of the inside of an egg, right? You could do a diagram that shows a drawing that has labels that shows the parts of a feather, right? Because we learned that. You could even do a diagram that shows feathers on a bird body and points to the different feather types, the wing feather, the tail feather, the contour feathers, and the down feathers. So you could do that. right? You could, and the labels are what goes on your diagram or your picture. Here it says that's the petal, that's the leaf. So labels are going to have an arrow that goes. So let's just take a look. I really enjoy scientific drawing, and I did this one for the cover of my book. Okay. So here I have a text feature. It's a drawing, right? A picture that shows that someone draws. Okay, my next page is my table of contents. You have one of these too, right? And it tells us what is in the book and the page that it's on. I didn't write pages on here, but it does tell us the order of the chapters. So there's another text feature. I added something to my writing. I didn't want to just start with chapter 1. I wanted to do an introduction, and I'll do a whole video about this next week, but it says optional. So I put a little map of Nevada right there, and that's a text feature, sometimes putting in maps. The mountain bluebird is the state bird of Nevada. I love their bright blue color. Read my book to learn about them. Just tells the reader what we're going to be reading about. This is a text feature. I added it because I said it was a state bird of Nevada. So I drew Nevada and put a little bird on there. All right, text features here. So I've got a heading. It's the name of my chapter. I've got bold words right there. I even have a picture that's actually a map with a caption that describes or tells people what this picture is about. So let me just read it. Mountain bluebirds mostly live in meadows. They need lots of space. They live in the mountains in the summer, but migrate to lower places in the winter. Then here I put a map. This map shows their range. That is where they live in the world. So it's kind of darkened right here to show where they live. So I had bold words, I had a heading, I had a picture, and I had a caption on that page. Okay, here I have a heading again, Chapter 2, Bluebird Bodies. Mountain bluebirds have body structures that help them survive. I thought this was a great one for bold words because I didn't think anyone reading this or listening to this would know what structures meant, so that's an expert word. They have tweezer beaks and perching feet. Okay, I still have to write a third chapter, so I'm not done with that part yet. Here I'm going to show you my glossary that I've started. And I had this with me, my bird is the word page, for ideas for how to describe what a word means. But what I did was I took the bold words from my chapters. In my first chapter, I had meadow and migrate as bold. In my next chapter, I said perching as one of my bold words. So if it's an expert word, I kind of want to tell people what it means in the glossary. Also, when we put our glossary together, we do it in ABC order. So words that start with A would come first, while words that start with Z would come last. So here I did it as a picture glossary. I wanted to add a little picture to go with it. And I said a meadow is an open field that can be habitats. And I drew a little open field. Migrate, to move from one place to another. And I drew a little bird that is flying. And then my next bold word that was in my writing was perching. And it says feet that can hold a branch to sit on. And I did a little picture of a bird and pointed to its perching feet. I'm thinking that in my third chapter called Nests, that might be where I decide to put a diagram with labels. Maybe because nests hold eggs, that would be a good place to draw a picture of an egg and then show how there's a yolk on the inside. And that there was albumin, I think it was called. I have to look at that picture again, but I showed it to you guys in the egg video. You have to look at exactly how it's said, albumin. That's okay. Sometimes we all get tripped up. But I could do the labels to the parts of the egg. That would be one thing that I could add. So think about it. You might be ready for this, and you might be really far from being ready for this, but that's okay. You're on your process, okay? So for me, I'm making a plan to add some text features just to make this really fun to read and fun to look at and fun to make. Our very, very last thing will be next week. We will do some publishing. And that is when we write it all out in our best handwriting. Or type it. Maybe you want to work on typing. All right, enjoy and do the text features that feel fun to you.